This is going to be a video reply to the user named Variablast, Varaiblast. Recently, you made a video called About Chomsky, referencing Noam Chomsky, the author and the Libertarian Socialist. And you go on to discuss Libertarian Socialism and how you perhaps like to open a discussion with those who would call themselves anarchists. And so I guess this is my reply to that invitation. It's unfortunate that people have been insulting you and biting your head off. I have no intention of doing that. I just would like to reply to some of the stuff you were saying in your video. In your video, you talk about anarchism, and you're right in the sense where if you look at the dictionary definition of anarchism, it says a political theory favoring the abolition of governments. So you would think anti-government, anti-authority, no kind of structure or system in that sense. And then you address libertarian socialism, which is kind of another word for anarchism. And you say that you are beginning to see libertarian socialism as translating or equating to big government anarchism, which in your opinion is a contradiction, and I can see how you can think that. But here's the thing: anarchism is anti-government. I suppose it depends on how you define the term government. You could potentially think of a situation where government truly means every individual in a society, in the sense of a entirely self-governing population. When I think of anarchy, I don't think of it as a kind of system of anti-system. I think of it as a social structure as opposed to a political or economic structure. Anarchy as opposed to hierarchy, as a system of organization of power in a society, where in any previous civilization of the past, there's always been a hierarchy, a ladder where you go up each rung and you have members who've been elected, who are self-appointed, or who just took over by force and have different levels of power. Like in America, we have citizens and mayors and governors and senators and all that, who have more power than the average citizen. They've been elected democratically, though we aren't given much of a choice. I would say what we have in America is more of an oligarchy, and when you consider the influence of, or oligarchy, however you say it, when you consider the influence of capital, of corporatism, the real power is with the money, because it's the lobbyists who pay off the congressmen and influence their votes, and so the average citizen doesn't have that much control. So in talking about libertarian socialism, is there such a thing as big government anarchy? Like I said, I've taken it upon myself to kind of redefine anarchy as meaning anarchy as opposed to hierarchy, not as opposed to government, or depending on how you define government. If you have the kind of, which is extremely common and that's expected, the kind of outlook where government is a sort of us versus them thing, you know, there's average citizen and then government, those with power, those who make the important decisions, then yes, anarchy can mean anti-government in that sense. However, if you were to create a society where each member had equal power and they were able to vote on every issue, political issues, judicial issues, and economic issues, like in socialism, then it wouldn't mean anti-government, because in that type of society, government would be another word basically for people who are self-governing, and in a society that is completely democratic and run on the will of the people, who are able to vote on everything. So unfortunately, the term government has a negative connotation, and it means basically power, those with power, government as opposed to citizen. In that sense, yeah, anarchy does mean anti-government. I don't think it has to mean that. Could we ever create a society where government means the same thing as citizens using their power to vote? I don't know. Human nature is quite corrupt. And this brings me to my second point. Anarchy, to me, it is just a social structure. meaning everyone has an equal amount of power and influence and democratic vote or whatever. Um, Anarchism does not have any political or economic implications whatsoever. If you say, I'm an anarchist, it doesn't say anything about your economic views. If you say, I'm an anarchist, it doesn't say anything really even about your political views. To me, when I say I'm an anarchist, it's a comment on social status, that everyone should have an equal amount of power, eliminating class in a socialistic kind of way. And so this is why, and many thinkers have recognized this, that anarchy is just anarchy as opposed to hierarchy. And this is why if you look on the Wikipedia or political websites that have articles on anarchism, let's take the Wikipedia for example, the articles are always divided up into maybe 10 different subcategories of anarchism. Because anarchism is not an economic or political theory in and of itself. This is why you have, even just looking at the Wikipedia, collectivist anarchism, anarchist communism, anarcho-capitalism, anarcho-feminism, green anarchism, anarcho-primitivism. That is, anarchy as a social structure followed by communism or capitalism or even monarchism as a political or economic structure. And that's the way I see it, which is, why I would call myself kind of an anarcho-socialist, where I believe everyone should have equal power, but the economy should be run according to the principles of Marxism, socialism. I hope that makes sense, all of what I've said so far. I know it can be a lot of semantics and seem like a lot of pointless categories and stuff like that, but that's what it is. So yeah, government, I don't think always has to mean an us versus them kind of thing. Government doesn't have to mean a limited, selective body of individuals who wield the majority of power and decision in society. The whole goal of socialism, communism, Marxism is to create a completely classless society, of course, which means everyone is equal socially and economically. In that sense, I think it would be anarchism. And if it didn't turn into shitty communism, fascism, like Stalin, Russia, or even like China, or many other horrible examples did, where the lower class overthrew the ruling class, and then they became the ruling class themselves. And, by definition, it stopped being communism at that exact moment. If we actually could have a society where there were no divisions of power between every single member of that society, that would be anarchy. And yet at the same time, every member of the society would be the government. The government would be an interchangeable term for the people or the citizens or you and I. That's the way I see it. That's how I would advocate it. And I'm sure there are many out there who wouldn't agree with how I took it upon myself to perhaps redefine anarchy as meaning just not hierarchy. But that's the way I see it, and I know that's the way some other thinkers have seen it. Also, I wanted to recommend to you, and I did this in your comment section, the website CrimeThink, CrimeThinc.com is a wonderful website. It's not political theory, it's not philosophy, there's some of it, but it's more or less kind of literature on anarchy. It's an awesome website, and it's perhaps the best website for getting a really good glimpse into the underlying philosophy of anarchy, which takes anthropology and biology and a bunch of different things into account. So, last thing I'd like to address is towards the end of your video, you said that you found Noam Chomsky's definition of libertarian socialism to be kind of muddled. So I want to try to clarify that and especially press home one point, and that is, in the term libertarian socialism, the libertarian is not meant to be a reference to the actual libertarian party, like libertarianism, which is a completely separate thing. It's not meant to be a combination of libertarianism and socialism. No, it's just a synonym actually for socialist anarchism. Because I could see how someone would think that libertarian socialism is a kind of combination of libertarianism, which is a free market capitalistic ideology, and socialism. That would be a complete contradiction of terms. So it's not that. It's just socialist anarchism, which, the way I see it, is using socialism, Marxism, as a basis for the economic structure, and anarchism as a social structure, meaning everyone has an equal amount of power and everyone is a member of the government or governing body, which in which every citizen has equal democratic rights to decide economic and political philosophy or policy. Sorry. So I hope that clarified, and I hope this video made sense. And that's all I got to say. Feel free to reply. Peace.